Hi everyone. So in this video, we're continuing with the last video on our discussion of objects. We are taking this object that we defined. I cleaned up all the other stuff that was on the page, and what we're going to do is actually see how we can use this object. So we've defined it, but we want to be able to use it in some manner. So to access values inside of the object, we can use two types of syntax. So the most common one is dot syntax. So Michael.name, if we refresh this, we'll print Michael. If we do same thing for age, this will print 57 here. The only thing you have to keep into consideration, that's very simple obviously for these, is when you have something a little more complex as a value. So we take hobbies, you have to make sure that you know what that key represents. So Michael.hobbies is a full array. But once you have that full array, you can access it just like any other array. So don't get confused or flustered or overwhelmed by the fact that you have an array nested in there. Once you have the array, you've accessed it, you can then treat it like any other array. So if I wanted to print play video games, I can use bracket syntax and access that value in there. I can loop through that array just like any other array. And so there's all my hobbies. And if we were going to go into, so that's how you would access an array inside of an object. If you were going to access an object inside of an object, well, that's just another dot, Michael.hometown. If we just print that, we're going to get the whole object. So that's the whole object. And if you want to get to a particular value inside there, you just add another dot and go inside the object. Because the idea is once you've done dot syntax into a key, you can continue that. Your Michael.hometown is a reference to this object, and then you can do another dot to access another value in that object. Michael.hobbies is a reference to this array, and you can use bracket syntax to access values in that array. So nothing to get scared of or get confused about. The last thing I'll talk about for objects is so I said there was a couple ways to access keys. Dot syntax is by far the most common, but you can also use bracket syntax with objects. And the only difference is that you give that bracket a string representation of the key. So double quotes name will actually give you the value of that. You're not going to see this too often, mostly because dot syntax is simpler. The only time bracket syntax is required is if you define a key that's multiple words, which most people don't tend to do. So if I would have changed this to something like hometown like that, I would then have to do something like this to access that object. But you won't see that. Most people are going to they're going to have keys without quotes, like you just saw. If you have multiple words, you have to use quotes for your keys, and but most people are going to have just simple single words. Sometimes maybe you'll see camel case words, so list of hobbies, things like that. Most people aren't going to put multiple words for their keys because it's nicer to just leave off the quotes. It's nicer to use dot syntax. And so that's it. Thanks for watching.